Today's operation will involve a number of moving parts. We've got Unite the Kingdom, which is a march and rally starting in the Kingsway, which will be heading down to Whitehall. We've got the Nakba Coalition March, which is starting in Exhibition Road and will make its way to Pall Mall. And then we have FA Cup final day as well, which is Man City versus Chelsea playing at Wembley. So very busy day in London, lots of moving parts and in excess potentially of 300,000 people coming into the capital city.
Articles 9, 10, 11, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. That is the starting point for all protests in this country, so we need to recognise that. The vast majority of people attending all marches today and every other day in London come out with the intention of peacefully protesting only. Where the difference is crime, hate crime, disorder. That is not protest, and that's when police core responsibilities kick in and we take action.
So Nakba Day is a yearly anniversary event. It's a march and a rally, and this year we're expecting to see a number of other coalition groups joining. So we're anticipating around 20 to 30,000 people on that march, but could see anywhere up to in excess of 50 to 60,000. And they're going to walk from Exhibition Road, setting off around lunchtime, and they'll make their way down to Pall Mall, where they'll have a stage and where they'll have a rally with speeches before they disperse around 5 o'clock in the evening. Unite the Kingdom, separate event. It is an event that's taken place 3 or 4 times now. Unite the Kingdom, Unite the West, depending on which way we call it. This is an event with support for Stephen Yaxley Lennon. They are also having a march and rally. They intend to march from the Kingsway down into Whitehall to a stage in Parliament Square, where they will also have a number of speakers. We will have a comprehensive policing plan in place to separate the two groups. Clearly there are concerns that if groups come together or elements of these groups come together, we could see disorder, we could see confrontation, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen from a public safety point of view, from officer safety point of view. So there will be a large policing plan in place, including a barrier build around Trafalgar Square, which is a large sterile area that will keep the two groups apart when they settle at their rally locations.
They've not blocked it. If square wasn't blocked off.
So in 15 minutes or so, that group will move off, and then I become responsible when they arrive at Trafalgar Square, and it's my officers in this area now who will then take over from Trafalgar Square all the way down to Parliament Square to the finish of the event today.
When we're talking about police intervention, when we're talking about medics, officers going into a crowd, that does pose a significant dilemma when you're thinking about putting officers into that situation. It's quite easy for officers to be surrounded or to be swallowed up in the size and scale of a march of that size. So we need to make sure as this march progresses, if we are putting officers into the crowd, that we're clear about the why and the how that we do that.
We get the first aid kit just when we got the van. These guys will clean it up, and then we'll just stick a bandage over it, just put a gauze pad and wrap it round. And then if they want us to move you, at least that's covered and you're not having to walk around with your head.
So interestingly, when marches of this size are underway, as we have seen now, actually a moving march is easier to police than a static assembly. Once the march starts to move off, obviously, then we've got groups of people that are spread out, which means that we can intervene more easily. Officers can get into a crowd if they need to deal with an issue or a concern. We can look at public safety and use different roads and different exit points to get crowds away if there's a concern with any of these marches.
One of the biggest misconceptions about police is that we're not impartial. We're here today to help all people with community around the surrounding area, the demonstration to make sure that's safe for everybody who takes part, and for other demonstrations that are happening elsewhere in London.
Guys, can we take the masks off for us? Just because there's a section 60 and 60AA means you can't have a mask on.
In order to give officers the best powers that they can use, the strongest legislation, I've implemented a section 60 and 60AA, which requires individuals to remove their face covering if an officer has reason to ask them to do that. So officers will be looking out for people with face coverings on, wholly for the purpose of concealing their identity, not just someone who's in the event wearing a scarf that's of no concern or interest. So they've got powers at their disposal that they can use if we think we need to intervene where criminality may be or about to be occurring.
Thank you very much. That's all I need you to do. Thank you. You are so back to your home language. You're a
your breath. And I get that still.
What did you say?
Yeah, watch, I'll get you shot in your head, mate. You won't do anything like that.
There is no place in modern society for anybody to abuse a police officer in the tour of their duty, in the course of their duty. It's not acceptable, it won't be tolerated.
You already say stop yelling. What the f? What are you gonna do? I'm look, my hand is not.
Right, the time is now 4:47. You're further arrested for racially aggravated public order, okay?
I absolutely do not support anybody who's abusing my officers on the ground. It's not acceptable and it will never be acceptable.
Guy here, that guy there, racially aggravated public order. He's just said to the black officer, go back to your homeland. So if you go and get him, yeah. On the floor! On the floor now! On the head!
You're not though. You're walking past us, calling us.
I don't give a f what you think. I've got the right to speak.
You've not got the right to talk to people like that at all.
Are you thick? What's your language?
There we go. Don't spit at me either.
It's important to me that the officers go home safe and well, that we don't have injuries to policing colleagues across London. We've got a lot of officers who volunteer to be public order trained, and that comes alongside what they do in their day-to-day world. So this is voluntary work on top of their normal policing position or posture.
So we've had information that the sign that you're displaying at the moment might be in support of Hamas. So we're just going to investigate that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I found it on the road.
Oh, okay, all right.
I swear to God.
We're just going to get someone.
I was just saying basically that our movement won't stop, like nothing will stop. I'm talking about Lebanon, about Iran, about all this, that we won't stand down to Israel. That's what I'm saying.
Hi, madam.
Hi.
So, because of you're holding this sign, essentially...
No, you can't take my phone. You can't.
Madam,
Just listen.
Listen, I'm going to be arresting you under Section 18 of the Public Order Act, right? And that's for stirring up racial hatred by this sign, okay? So you do not have to say anything. But in my humble defence, you do not mention one question. Tell me if you are lying in court. Anything you do say may be given.
It takes an awful lot of composure at times in the face of what has been significant abuse today for officers to maintain that composure, maintain their professionalism. But we're an organisation that knows how to police public order, and we do it well. And I think today's demonstrated that for those individuals that perhaps pre this event were calling for the marches to be banned, for there to be more significant legislation imposed. But I think we've shown today that using the legislation to its absolute utmost, we've managed to protect people's democratic right to protest, but equally we've made sure that our communities of London have been safe today and been able to go about their business.